Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Damian Lemos here for iChess.net and welcome to this new video where we'll be talking about endgames. And we know endgames are one of the most complicated parts of chess, and it takes years of experience to be a good endgame player. And we know a lot of basic tips to play the endgame successfully. Usually we know the king counts as an extra piece. Usually you have to activate your king during the endgame. Also, when it comes, for instance, to rook endgames, it is good to place your rook on the 7th rank. Pieces activity really matters. It is much more important than material. And as those tips, we have much more. And the thing is, what grandmasters do is they try visualizing the endgame right from the middle game or even from the opening. And here I have an example to share with you. And let's comment what happens in the Rising endgame. So we have this position. This comes from a d4 game, and black, he's playing what we call a stonewall setup. When you see pawns like this, they usually come from a Dutch defense, also known as the stonewall. And, well, we can see, okay, f5, we are at move 11 in this game. The middle game is just starting, but we'll see white is already thinking about the endgame, and he plays rook ac1. So when it comes to endgames, we also have to analyze the pawn structure. That's also a valuable concept. In a lot of endgames, what really matters is the pawn structure. And here, for instance, white plays rook ac1, and he doesn't really care about bishop takes f4. I mean, if black plays this, which is what he played, our pawn structure is a bit weak. But here we have another concept. Let's take a look at white pawns. h2, f4, f2, d4. Suppose we play e3. Most of our pawns are placed on dark squares. That means our bishop on g2 is a good bishop. On the other hand, if we look at bishop b7, we can tell this bishop is what we call a bad bishop. It is crashing into black's center and black's main pawn structure. So, well, now we are in the middle game, but if we happen to play an endgame, we know white has a substantial positional advantage. So this trade, bishop takes, pawn takes, doesn't look much, but towards the endgame, this represents an advantage for white already, despite having these double pawns on the f file. So black plays c5. If he plays something like c6, his bishop is getting worse and worse. So he tries activating his position. And let's see how that position changes here. White takes on c5, black takes with the knight. Here white takes the chance of activating his position by means of b4. Knight takes c2. And as you can see, we are trading too many pieces, and that means the endgame is closer. Knight e4, c takes c5, and in this position black plays an in-between move, rook c8. Well, he can also take on d5. It looks like if he takes with the bishop, then we can consider winning a pawn at some point. For instance, this. Well, if bishop takes, he has rook takes f4, but we can play e3 first. All pawns on dark squares. My bishop is good. His bishop, on the other hand, is useless. So this was a possibility. But after this, black decides to play rook c8. We move our queen. We cannot take the rook. So queen b2, e takes d5. And again, we have an endgame coming soon. And this game, I think the key was looking at this bishop on b7, which is not well placed at all. So white plays knight to f3, and he's already trying to establish a powerful knight on d4. When it comes to endgames, we also think about good squares for our pieces. Here, for instance, my knight on d2, the knight is okay, but it would be much better on e5 or even d4. Those squares are great for my knight because there's nothing black can do to push my knight back from e5 or even d4. On the other hand, if one day we play knight d4 or even knight e5, we can push his knight back by means of f3. So, whoops, that was mouse clip. Not knight takes f2, that loses the knight for nothing. So what I was saying, in endgames, it is important to analyze the pawn structure and potential weaknesses and squares. Of course, it is great if you can calculate variations, but in endgames, it's not all about calculating, it's about finding the right plans. And when I say plans, I talk about long-term plans as well. So let's see how white improves his position here. Knight f3, queen d6, white plays e3. As you can see, he keeps on placing his pawns on dark squares. That is making his bishop a good bishop. Rook takes, and black, he tries trading as much as he can. Rook takes e8, bishop takes. And if you look at this endgame now, after trading too much, especially after trading rooks, we can tell this is indeed an endgame. Black, he should be okay here. We know white has positional pluses. We know we have great squares for our knight. We know our bishop is better than bishop c8, but it doesn't look like black should lose this. But that doesn't mean that we as white cannot put pressure. I mean, we definitely can, and we'll see how in this game white increases the pressure using the squares, space, and his best bishop and knight to make progress. So knight d4, I like this move. Also knight e5 was possible, but knight d4, we put an eye on f5. We might have this idea at some point. Therefore, he plays a6. We take the chance to remove his active piece from e4. And talking about active play, queen c3. It's not about attacking his bishop. Of course, if we have the chance, we'll take it, but it's about taking the only open file at the moment. In endgames, what really matters is pieces activity. Material, it matters as well, but the activity and initiative is usually more valuable. So bishop d7, and let's take a look at what white plays here. Bishop to h3. Again, this reminds me of queen c3. It looks like a basic threat, But what we want to do is, we want to see this move, and black has to play g6. What is the problem? Well, he keeps on placing pawns on light squares. His bishop is terrible. It is crashing into the entire pawn structure. If he had bishop e7, bishop g7, bishop f8, if he had the dark squares bishop, then his pawn structure is ideal. But knowing that he has the bishop on d7, placing the pawns like this can't be good. Unfortunately for black, he has no choice but to play this move, hurting his pawn structure, hurting his bishop's d7 chances, and white, once bishop h3 has done its work, now the bishop comes back to the action on the queen side this time. So he plays bishop f1, and guess what? Black played b5. So now, he's making the moves for us. He played b5, and his bishop is officially what I like to call a tall pawn. And that means the bishop is crashing into the entire pawn chain. It doesn't have any good diagonal. I think this maneuver we just saw is key. It also works as a nice strategy example. We force this move, now we force b5, and this is a great endgame play. Being patient, maneuvering, improving your pieces as much as you can, and now when he advances his pawns to light squares, that means we have potential holes for our pieces on dark squares. Now c5 is also a target for us. So that is indeed what white plays: knight b3, a5, c5, even e5, multiple squares for us to exploit, queen b6, knight c5, simple by white. We can also play king f2. Remember, the king is a valuable piece in endgames. Maybe, we can also come back to d4, but this would be repeating positions, and we don't want to draw. We want to win because we have the advantage. So knight c5, black plays bishop c8, and white, little by little, improves his position. It looks like black is in some sort of 6-1. We also have a video talking about the 6-1 tactic. You should check this on our YouTube channel. And I say 6-1 because he cannot move the knight. The knight is protecting d5. Moving the bishop doesn't look like a good idea. It's like he might be losing this knight on f6 at the end. And, well, he can move the king. It's not a complete 6-1, but he's running out of good moves. So black plays queen c6, and again, the concept of king being a valuable piece, it works here. I can even use my king to drive it to the queen side, and maybe I can play something like a4 at some point, creating more and more weaknesses on the queen side. That is a plan. Let's see what white did. Bishop d3, awesome maneuver, improving our pieces to its higher potential. The bishop on b3 couldn't be better, and then we are also attacking the d5 pawn. So being patient is the key to success in endgames. If you try to win quickly, that is an issue usually. However, if you do maneuvers like this, especially when your opponent doesn't have any counterplay, then you're likely to succeed. Now he played knight to e8. Well, maybe knight d7 is better. A good concept is, when you're defending, when you are under pressure, a good trick, a good advice is to trade pieces off. On the other hand, if you're attacking, you don't want to trade. So here after knight d7, I can play this in-between move, and he cannot take on c5 because of bishop takes d5 check, and I end up winning material. So yeah, knight d7, bishop b3, he has to come back to f6, and now all our pieces are improved. I can move my king, but considering this diagonal, I would just fire with e4, and yeah, e5 is coming, so is e takes d5. Black looks, yeah, seems to be in terrible shape. So after bishop c2, black, who's been defending for a while, plays knight to e8. That is the problem of passive play. You'll end up making a mistake sooner or later. And what is more, if you play passive, your opponent is not likely to make mistakes. And that is why in endgames, I always recommend playing active plans. If you play active, well, you might be in a worse situation, but you'll have counterplay. Here black played passive, he played knight c7, another mistake. Yes, he's protecting d5, but his bishop c8 is hanging, and after the simple queen h8, as you can see, there's nothing black can do to avoid losing material. So yeah, he either loses c8 or h7. So yeah, queen e8 takes, and now king f6. White here, he was careful enough not to take on c7. This is allowing black a lot of counterplay. He may have a couple of checks, and yeah, some perpetual checks maybe. So once we took the h7 pawn, we can just play it safe. We stop queen takes e3. We keep all the threats, and we know that with the extra pawn, we are likely to win this. And yeah, white played even better, e4, stopping the check. If he takes on e4, now I can easily take the knight, and there's no queen e3. So yeah, e4, black played queen e7, and after e5, he also loses the queen. So here black resigns. As this endgame, I can show you a lot of other examples, and I mean, the endgame, it is key to study. The more you train, the more experience you get, the better endgame player you'll be. And trust me, most of the games, especially if you're playing against an equally skilled opponent, the endgame is where the difference is seen. I mean, you can exploit your opponent, you can take some advantage of your opponent in endgames. A lot of the difference is made there. So I hope you found this useful. I even found this example useful while analyzing it. I was able to refresh a lot of endgame concepts, and of course, on this channel and all of my courses, you'll find a lot of endgame advice. This is just an example, but I wish you found this useful. I hope you like this. And of course, I want to see you guys in my next videos. Thank you.